What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Winter Exhibition here at the MLG Studios in New York City. I'm axeltoss, joined by axslav. Before we jump into Game 2 of this best of 5 between MarineKing Prime and Huck, youtube.com/official MLGSC2. If you miss anything, any of the matches you see broadcasted live, well, how can you miss it if you watch it live? But you get my point. Basically, anything we show live is available YouTube VODs very, very quickly after the games conclude. Ideally 2 or 3 hours after, but if someone in the office is feeling a little lazy, then it's the next day, which is fine. But it's usually going to be up there, 1080p HD.
That's right. Of course, high-quality VODs, free of charge. YouTube.com/official MLGSC2, your source of all StarCraft content. Now we're at game number 2. We have Huck down 0-1. MarineKing taking that first game. Game number 2, though, is going to be on Whirlwind.
It is. It is indeed.
Zealot there taking the watchtower. That central watchtower is very important on this map, as if you control the center, your opponent to walk across the map and attack you, it takes them a much longer time because they have to go through around a size.
You know, I love that point. You know what this watchtower reminds me of?
What does that watchtower remind you of, good sir?
King's Landing.
It does kind of look like it, doesn't it? It's
really
like fortified, a lot of stuff built up in a small area.
What you just said, you know, they're trying to take control of the watchtower, right?
Yeah.
That's a pretty heavily contested point. You know, King's Landing, it's kind of like that point that everyone's trying to get a hold of.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel ya.
Let's introduce these players. Top right-hand location, we have the Red Terran player, MarineKing Prime. And of course, his opponent in the bottom right is the Blue Protoss player, Huck. Huck is currently down 1-0. In this best of 5, he has some work to do. But I think he's perfectly capable. Showed some fancy play in Game 1.
He did. I mean, one trademark of Huck's play is he always uses mind games and tries to kind of trick his opponent and catch him off guard. And he really did that Game 1. I mean, MarineKing had no idea that 4-gate was coming. He had absolutely no idea. If he did, he would have obviously had like 3 bunkers instead of 1.
Or maybe he did know. He was like, you know what?
He just like, you know what? I'll just go 3 CC, 1 bunker, like
I'll be fine.
double gas.
I got Marines.
Yeah, he is the MarineKing.
Yep.
Take a few of those, and you can hold any position.
Exactly.
You know, you may be onto something there, my friend. You may be onto something. Again, CC first. Of course, it's not like CC first is like a risky build in Terran vs Protoss. There's as long as you execute it well, you can defend anything. We saw that last game, in fact. MarineKing defended just fine, even taking a very fast 3rd CC after that first CC first. So it's definitely a very strong opening, and I really like it on a map like Whirlwind because for Terran, even more so than the other races, it's hard to be aggressive early on this map because Terran, when you produce your units, they come out from your base. And so to attack your opponent, you have to produce units and walk them all the way across this huge map. And by then, your army's probably going to be outnumbered because your opponent has an extra couple, rally groups of units waiting while you've had to cross the map. So for Terran, more so than the other races because they cross the map the slowest, I think it's a really strong way. Just focus on macro, build command centers, don't try to attack early on Whirlwind.
Now this is pretty interesting. Huck opening 1 gas, getting a Stalker, and I'm interested because I'm going to ask you this. What's to stop MarineKing from building an NG bay there at the natural? Is it just the map?
Yeah, the idea is it's a 4-spawn map, and Terran's going to scout early. Right. Okay. The odds. Yeah,
because like that would be my main concern. Is like, all right, if you're getting a Stalker first, then you're not, because he didn't even have a probe at the natural to check on that, right?
It's a total map play.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That's what I expected.
Yeah. Although, you know, in Heart of the Swarm, a type build like that is slightly less risky because if you see the eBay, usually what you can do is, because what happened is he built a Nexus when his Stalker was like a 1/3 of the way done or something, right?
Yeah.
And so if you run there, you see an eBay, you can cancel the Stalker and Chrono Boost out the Mothership Core. And that builds very quickly. So kind of new in Heart of the Swarm. I mean, it's still bad you build a Zealot and a Mothership Core, but a Zealot and a Mothership Core will actually kill pretty quickly. So it's not,
of course.
It's not as bad as it is in Wings of Liberty. Of course, it's still not ideal.
Now Huck is going to be scouting across the map here with the Stalkers, trying to find out exactly where his opponent is. He's about to find out it's top right because process of elimination. He's going to check the bottom left to see nothing there. He's going to poke up and see an SCV and 5 Marines. He doesn't want to lose his Stalker though, and I don't think he will.
MarineKing's changing up its play. I think it's pretty important to note that. He built a third barracks before getting gas this game, and then he also built an engineering bay before, well, he built the engineering bay before factory in the other game as well, but 3 barracks and the engineering bay starting stem before factory. He's going to be looking most likely to move out before he gets medevacs. Now, of course, without medevacs, you can't really break force fields and photon overcharge, but what you can do is you can make sure that Protoss doesn't take it faster. And Whirlwind's a map where Protoss might think of doing that. And so moving out with +1 in stim and a sizable bioforce can really prevent them from taking that third early on.
Now, Huck doesn't necessarily know about the expansion from his opponent. You know, he saw Bunker, he saw the Marines, but you can't really guarantee that your opponent is taking expansion at this point. So he's getting an observer out, and he has his stalkers near his main mineral line. Now, this is, of course, to defend against any potential Widow Mine drops or
even a Banshee.
Or even a Banshee.
Yeah, a lot of different threats.
So very safe play here from Huck.
Yeah, I really like that. You know, the last game his play was kind of wild and loose and trying to catch MarineKing off guard, and that didn't work. So he's like, well, you know what? Let's play a very solid, a very safe style. Whirlwind is historically a good map for Protoss vs. Terran. If a map gets very big, it becomes very hard for Terran to control the corners of the map in the late game because, of course, Protoss can warp in at the corners with proxy pylons or warp prisons very easily. They can defend side expansions with photon cannons. And Terran has a hard time moving around and controlling all the different portions of the map as it gets to the very late game. Of course, that's a long ways off, and MarineKing being MarineKing, he'll have plenty to say about this game as he develops his Marine count. We can see their double reactors on the barracks are finishing up just now.
Huck adding on his Forge. Twilight Council starting to blink and +1. Interesting decision to go blink here instead of charge. That means he wants to be very mobile with his stalkers, potentially try to isolate medevacs here and there. And MarineKing keeps seeing these observers. I'm pretty sure he saw that one there from Huck and try to follow it. We'll have to see if he tries to use his scan anytime soon. But yeah, draw play can be very tough to deal with in Heart of the Storm, considering the addition of Ignite Afterburners on the medevacs. So I feel like having blink, that's a very safe play here from Huck. But usually the differences are, okay, either go blink and +1 weapons, or go something like charge and +1 armor. And of course, map size as well is another reason for that. So I kind of like that play from Huck.
I do as well. It's going to be a very, very strong anti-drop option. Of course, the one weakness of going blink is that stalkers are not that great in a straight-on engagement. So if Huck gets caught out in the middle by, especially with double reactor to Marine count that MarineKing is going to have, he's not going to be able to win a fight in the middle of the map. But what he can do is he can deny drops, and what he can do is he can defend his rank very well. And if MarineKing overextends, stalkers can run down and punish an army like extremely, extremely well. So if MarineKing overextends, and Huck he has 7 warp gates, so he can easily warp in a ton of units. And MarineKing has got to be very careful because remember, by the time he crosses the map, his army that seemed much larger than Huck's, all of a sudden Huck's warped in 14 more units, and Huck could very easily overwhelm MarineKing's force here.
Force fields have to be perfect here from Huck. He definitely has an eye on what his opponent is up to. Mother Core does not yet have enough energy for Photon Overcharge. It has enough energy for Time Warp, but I would expect him to save up for that Photon Overcharge just in case he gets in a little bit of trouble, just to buy himself a little bit more time. The Force fields are going to be instrumental as far as that's concerned as well. MarineKing trying to poke forward, stimming up, only Marine and Marauder getting by Huck with beautiful Force fields. And MarineKing even saving one of the Marauders, so only 1 Marine dying there, but a big stim there from the Bio Army.
Huck lost 2 Zealots from Marine, but that stim, like you mentioned, cannot be overlooked. That's a significant cost. The factory is going to go down as well. Photon Overcharge on Nexus. MarineKing doesn't care.
He's letting him come up. Guardian Shield going down, but so many Marines and Marauders here. We said this before. Stalker's not good in a straight-up fight, but Huck letting his opponent into his natural expansion. But Photon Overcharge isn't going to be enough to hold off this massive Bio Army with 4 medevacs supplementing above and reinforcements spewing across the map. +1 armor is about halfway done, but Huck desperately trying to get units out. He's just going to have to GG. Very interesting end of the game there. Guess he just didn't. He felt confident against.
Well, I don't even know if he had the energy to lay down another force field wall. He only had the 2 sentries, I think, or actually had 3. But that's a really interesting call. You know, a lot of Protoss would warp in additional sentries there,
right?
Because it's so hard. Like we talked about earlier, Blink Stalkers, their stats are bad. They're great at picking off medevacs. They're great if you overwhelm your opponent's army when they're retreating. You finish them off. But you have to have a way to beat that army in the first place. Force fields are a great way to stall it out, and he was going for Colossi. Once he had those, he would have been fine. It's not quite enough force field just to buy himself enough time.
Yeah, really good timing there from MarineKing, able to overwhelm Huck in game number 2 with a massive Bioforce at his natural expansion, which means MarineKing is going to be up 2-0 in this best of 5, which means he's 1 win away from advancing to the semifinals of the MLG Winter Exhibition. Guys, stay tuned. Game 3 between Huck and MarineKing coming up.